The Falling Leaves by Margaret Postgate Cole, written in November 1915, puts this firmly in a similar category to Futility by Wilfred Owen. It is a poem that hinges around a semicolon, and that's really important, the semicolon being here, and structurally that semicolon is invaluable. All good poems have some sort of transition, some shift from the personal to the universal, and in this case, this semicolon does that. Before the semicolon, we have a fairly mundane event. Today, as I rode by, I saw the brown leaves dropping from their tree in a still afternoon, when no wind whirled them whistling to the sky, but thickly, silently they fell, like snowflakes wiping out the noon. That in itself could be a nice little ditty of a poem, excuse me, but it would defeat Postgate Cole's objectives. What she saw reminded her of something, and that was demonstrated after the semicolon. So we start in November, which we all know is really the end of autumn, a time seasonally when things are dying, when leaves are dropping off trees, the weather's turning cold, and as always, since Aristotle and people were writing down the rules of literature and poetry, the seasons have always been used as metaphor, and autumn has always been associated with death. So it's a very obvious metaphor of nature in this poem, but it's very effective. So today, it gives it a real sense of time and a reflection of when she wrote this and the effect this event had on her. As I rode by, later on, she wandered slowly thence. And we can see there the difference in the verbs, the energy of the verb, to ride by suggests perhaps you're going from one place to another, and to wander slowly thence is more contemplative. So, as she was riding by, she saw the brown leaves dropping from their tree. Brown, adjective that accurately describes autumnal leaves. Dropping, the participle there is important because it links to something later on, because it implies a lack of control, and this links to the gallant multitude down here who were all who witheringly lay. They dropped through no intent of their own. So back up to here, from their tree in a still afternoon, when no wind whirled them whistling to the sky, but thickly silently. So it's not like it's a windy autumnal day where the wind blows the leaves off the tree. It's just their time to die. It's their time to fall off. It is their moment in the cycle where they leave the branch. They leave the thing that has sustained them for 6 months. But thickly, silently fell like snowflakes wiping out the noon. Okay, so in this section, before the semicolon, we have an observation of nature, the role nature plays in the life cycle of trees and leaves. However, if we are to superimpose the human existence over this, we can see the tree as being the roots, the family tree, the sense of identity and belonging. We see the leaves, therefore, as being the product of that tree, the children over the years. Brown, a reference to the khaki uniform worn by the soldiers. And it's not a difficult thing to then go on to the next section after the semicolon to reinforce that imposition of a metaphor there. So after the semicolon, here, we have a very pointed message, quite a bitter message, and the language is incredibly negative. We have withering, multitude, when used with withering and pestilence and strewed, and falling, similar to dropping. As a collection, semantically, there is, and slain we can include there as well. There is nothing positive to be seen by this. This is a criticism of what has occurred over the Channel, or elsewhere in France, and it allows us to understand her perspective, which is that they are wasted. They didn't drop from their tree because nature has dictated it. They dropped from the tree because mankind has imposed it. They have been taken early. It is not their time to fall naturally from their tree, from their family's existence. Instead, they have been slain. Brilliant verb. Not by age or illness, but by guns and shells and molten metal and whatever else they came into contact with. And the fact that we've got nature here and we have got the consequences of man-made actions here links very strongly to futility. So the juxtaposition, the placing side by side of these two things, separated structurally by the semicolon, is a very effective way of demonstrating the natural process here and the unnatural process here. Now there are a couple of examples of very obvious alliterative content, and the first one is here: when no wind whirled them whistling to the sky, which could be simply a mimicking of the wind, of the way in which the wind does do that. It's quite a dour kind of sound. It's just what it is. It's not aggressive in any way. It's not particularly pretty. It's timely. It's what should happen. Be careful when you're analysing alliteration. There isn't that much to say. And we have another example somewhere else. In the last line, with snowflakes falling on Flemish clay. What can you say about that? Perhaps not that much, other than snowflakes falling on Flemish clay. It perhaps adds a little bit of emphasis to the last line. It increases the rhythm of the last line. And if you can think of anything else, tell me. Last couple of things. We have this fantastic phrase here: in their beauty strewed like snowflakes. Placing those two words next to each other, beauty and strewed. One is clearly very positive. The other one is connotatively very negative. To strew is to sort of throw without care, and you wouldn't, in normal conversation rhetoric, you wouldn't put these two things together. But this suits the oxymoron of this suits Post-Kate Cole's idea that she's trying to convey to us, that this is unnatural, that these two things shouldn't go together, but they are. They are young and they are dead. They shouldn't be dead, but they are. So, quick comparisons from the point of view of the effects of conflict in terms of death. We have out of the blue, that sense of something happening completely unnaturally. Again, Mamay Wood, futility, come on, come back, and the idea of loss, of something bigger than the individual, poppies and futility, cover that as well.